Imagine for a moment that every dream you have, every vision that burns in your heart, was not placed there by accident. You are not created to wander aimlessly, hoping success somehow finds you. There is a divine plan for your life, and that plan is filled with abundance, peace, and purpose. But here is the question that changes everything. Are your goals aligned with that plan, or are you chasing something that was never meant for you? Because true prosperity, the kind that fulfills and sustains, begins when your purpose is in harmony with God's purpose for you. You see, Napoleon Hill spoke often about the necessity of having a definite major purpose, a single, clear goal that becomes the focal point of your life. Without it, you drift. With it, you gain direction, energy, and power. But I want to take that a step further. Your definite purpose cannot just be about personal ambition. It has to be rooted in something higher, something eternal. That's where alignment with God's will comes in. Because when you move in agreement with His design, doors open that no man can shut. Opportunities show up that you could never have orchestrated on your own. Think about it like this. If you're a musician, your life is an instrument. Alone, you might produce a sound, but when you allow God to conduct the symphony, suddenly everything flows in perfect harmony. That's the beauty of alignment. It doesn't mean life will be free of challenges, but it does mean you will always be moving in the right direction, even when the road feels steep. There's something profoundly liberating about knowing you don't have to figure it all out by yourself. Your job is to seek clarity, to ask, is this desire in me from God, or is it just a distraction? Because not every good thing is a God thing. When you align your purpose with His, your work takes on new meaning. It's no longer just about making money, gaining influence, or checking boxes. It becomes a calling, and when something is a calling, you show up differently. You put your heart into it because you know it matters beyond today. That sense of significance is what fuels perseverance when others quit. It's what makes you keep building when the world says, give up. But here's what I've learned. Alignment doesn't happen by accident. It requires intentionality. It starts with asking the hard questions. What am I chasing? Why am I chasing it? Does this path bring me closer to the person God created me to be, or does it pull me away? Because every step you take is either leading you toward your divine purpose or away from it. The tragedy is that most people never stop to ask. They wake up years later successful in the eyes of the world, but empty on the inside because they climbed the wrong mountain. Don't let that be your story. When you align with God's purpose, your vision becomes clearer. Fear loses its grip because you know who walks with you. You begin to attract the right people, the right opportunities, and even the right timing. Because everything about your life starts moving in rhythm with something bigger than you. That's when you experience what I call effortless momentum, not because there's no work, but because the work is blessed. And here's the best part. Alignment doesn't just prosper you financially or professionally. It prospers your soul. It gives you peace in the storm and joy in the journey. That's real success. And that's why the very first step to prospering in all you do is making sure you're walking in sync with the one who created you. Because when you and God agree on the direction of your life, there is no force on earth that can stop you. When your purpose aligns with His plan, prosperity is not a possibility, it's a promise. Everything begins with faith. Not money, not connections, not even talent faith. Faith is the foundation of abundance, the unseen bridge between what exists only in your mind and what eventually becomes your reality. Napoleon Hill said it best when he wrote, "What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But notice the key word, believe. Belief is faith in action. It's the unwavering confidence that what you are working toward, what you are praying for, already exists in the unseen, even if there is not a single shred of evidence in the physical world to confirm it. The truth is, every dream worth chasing will require you to believe before you see. That's where most people struggle, because the human tendency is to want proof first. We say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the divine principle is the opposite. You will see it when you believe it. That's why faith is so powerful. It calls things into existence before they appear. It's what gives you the courage to take the first step when there's no guarantee of success. It's what makes you get up after failure because you know the setback is temporary. Without faith, you hesitate, you doubt, and eventually you quit. With faith, you persist, you adapt, and you win. But faith is more than just a feeling, it's a discipline. It's something you strengthen every single day. How? By controlling the thoughts that dominate your mind. If you allow fear, doubt, and negativity to take root, faith cannot grow. Your mind is like soil. Whatever you plant will multiply. If you plant seeds of belief, of confidence, of expectation, you create an environment where faith thrives. That's why prayer, affirmations, and visualization are not just nice ideas, they are tools to condition your mind for faith. When you speak life over your goals, when you visualize the outcome as already accomplished, you're programming your subconscious to accept that success is not only possible, it's inevitable. And here's something important. Faith doesn't mean you won't have fear. It means you act in spite of fear. It's not about waiting until you feel 100% ready, because that moment will never come. Faith means stepping out while the path is still unclear, trusting that it will become visible as you move forward. Imagine a foggy road at night. Your headlights only show a few feet ahead, but as you keep driving, more of the road is revealed. That's faith. You don't have to see the entire journey, you just have to trust the one who does. Now, let me ask you, how many dreams have died in your life because you lacked the faith to pursue them? How many times have you talked yourself out of an opportunity because you couldn't see how it would all work out? Faith doesn't need to know how, it only needs to know who. When your faith is anchored in God, the how becomes His responsibility. Your responsibility is to believe, to act, and to persist until what you believed becomes your reality. But faith alone is not passive. It demands corresponding action. You can't say you believe in success and then sabotage yourself with procrastination and excuses. Faith expresses itself through what you do daily. If you believe you are called to prosper, then you invest in your growth, you work with excellence, you treat people with respect, and you refuse to settle for less than what God has promised. That's how faith shows up in the physical world, through consistent action that reflects your internal conviction. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when circumstances make you question everything. That's when you remind yourself that faith is not based on what you see, but on what you know deep within your spirit. The fact that the dream is in you is proof enough that it can be yours. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the key that unlocks doors no man can close. When you choose to live by faith and not by sight, you position yourself for blessings beyond anything you could imagine. And that is why faith is, and will always be, the foundation of abundance. The thoughts you allow to live in your mind shape the life you experience. Every action you take, every decision you make, starts as a thought. And if you trace the root of every success story and every failure, you will find it in the mind. That's why guarding your thoughts is not optional, it's essential. Napoleon Hill emphasized this truth when he wrote about the power of positive thinking, but I want to take it even further by connecting it to something even more powerful: prayer. Because when you combine the discipline of positive thinking with the spiritual force of prayer, you unlock a level of clarity, confidence, and creativity that the world cannot understand. Your mind is like a garden. If you neglect it, weeds grow automatically. Those weeds are fear, doubt, worry, and negativity. They don't need an invitation. They just show up when you're not intentional. But when you plant seeds of hope, gratitude, and expectancy, and you water them with prayer, something remarkable happens. Your thoughts start aligning with what you desire instead of what you fear. You stop focusing on limitations and start looking for opportunities. And here's what's even more amazing. When your thoughts and prayers work together, you begin to attract circumstances and people that match what you've been holding in your mind. But let's be honest, it's not easy to keep your thoughts positive when life feels heavy. It's not easy to believe for breakthroughs when everything around you looks like a breakdown. That's why prayer is so important. Prayer is the reset button for your mind. It takes the burden off your shoulders and places it in the hands of the one who can handle it. When you pray, you are not just asking for help, you are aligning your thoughts with divine wisdom. You are saying, I choose to see this through a higher perspective. I choose faith over fear, hope over despair. That choice changes everything. Positive thinking without prayer can become self-reliance, and prayer without positive thinking can become empty words. But when you combine them, you create an unstoppable force. Think about it. Every time you pray with faith, you are feeding your mind with possibility. You are reminding yourself that the situation is temporary, but your purpose is permanent. You are declaring that the same God who gave you the vision will provide the provision. And when your mind is saturated with that kind of expectation, your actions start to reflect it. You move with confidence. You speak with conviction. You stop hesitating and start doing because you know you're not doing it alone. There's a reason why people who cultivate this habit seem to carry a different energy. They're not just positive thinkers, they're spiritually anchored. And that anchor matters because life will test you. There will be days when your positive affirmations feel weak, when doubt feels louder than faith. On those days, prayer becomes your refuge. It becomes the voice that reminds you of who you are and whose you are. It reminds you that your success is not dependent on luck, chance, or the economy, but on the unshakable principles that govern abundance. But here's something practical. This isn't just about a few moments of prayer in the morning and then letting the chaos of the day control your mind. This is about staying connected throughout the day. It's about catching negative thoughts before they spiral and replacing them with words of life. It's about praying over your plans, your relationships, your opportunities, and asking for wisdom before you act. Because when you do, you're not just thinking positive, you're thinking empowered, and that kind of thinking creates unstoppable momentum. If you can master this, keeping your thoughts positive and anchoring them with prayer, you will notice a shift not only in your results, but in your peace. You will walk into rooms differently, you will speak differently, and most importantly, you will expect differently. And when your expectations change, your life changes. The combination of positive thinking and prayer is not just a principle for success. It's a way of life, and it will lead you to breakthroughs you never thought possible. Every choice you make, Every word you speak and every action you take sends out a ripple that eventually returns to you. This is the law of cause and effect, and it is as certain as the rising of the sun. Napoleon Hill spoke about this principle when he emphasized that success is never an accident. It's the result of deliberate actions repeated consistently over time. The same truth runs through Scripture. What you sow, you reap. That means if you plant seeds of excellence, integrity, and persistence, you will harvest success. If you plant seeds of laziness, excuses, and shortcuts, you cannot expect a different outcome. Life is a mirror. It reflects back to you what you give to it. When we understand this, we stop living by luck and start living by principle. Too many people are waiting for opportunities to fall into their laps, hoping for a miracle while refusing to plant any seeds. But even in the kingdom of God, miracles often begin with a seed. That seed might be an act of faith, a step of obedience, or a decision to give your best effort every single day. The law of sowing and reaping is not just about money. It applies to every area of life. If you want strong relationships, sow kindness and understanding. If you want wisdom, sow time into learning. If you want success, sow consistency into your craft. You cannot bypass this process. There is no harvest without planting. But here's what makes this principle even more powerful. You never reap exactly what you sow. You reap more than you sow. A single seed of corn doesn't produce one kernel. It produces an entire stalk with many ears of corn. That means the small choices you make today compound over time. The extra hour you spend studying, the phone call you make to encourage someone, the discipline of saving instead of spending recklessly, these small seeds seem insignificant in the moment. But they create an exponential harvest later. The question is, what are you sowing when no one is watching? Because those private seeds will produce a very public harvest. Of course, the waiting period is where most people give up. They plant for a few weeks or a few months, and when they don't see results, they stop watering their dream. But the harvest always takes time. There is a season for planting, a season for watering, and a season for reaping. You cannot skip the process just because it feels slow. If a farmer quits before the crop is ready, he forfeits the reward of all his labor. And that's exactly what happens when we let discouragement win. Persistence is what keeps you tending the soil even when there's no sign of growth. It's what makes you keep giving your best when no one is clapping, because you know the applause will come later. And let's not forget this. The quality of your harvest depends on the quality of your seed. You can't plant negativity and expect joy. You can't plant mediocrity and expect excellence. If you want abundance, you have to sow abundance. In your attitude, in your effort, in the way you serve others. When you start doing that, something amazing happens. The law of cause and effect begins working for you instead of against you. The universe responds to what you give it. God honors the effort that reflects faith and diligence. This principle is not meant to intimidate you. It's meant to empower you, because it means you are never stuck. No matter what your past harvest looks like, you can start planting new seeds today. If you've been sowing doubt, start sowing belief. If you've been sowing fear, start sowing courage. If you've been sowing excuses, start sowing action. Your future is not determined by what you've reaped up to this point. It's determined by what you decide to sow from this moment forward. Every great achievement, every story of transformation began with someone who understood this law and refused to quit during the planting season. So the next time you wonder if your effort matters, remember this. the harvest is always greater than the seed. And if you keep sowing in faith and persistence, the day will come when your field overflows with abundance beyond anything you imagined. One of the most powerful principles Napoleon Hill ever shared was the concept of the mastermind. He understood that no great success is ever achieved alone. Every person who has accomplished something extraordinary did so with the help, ideas, and support of others. But here's something even deeper. What if you took that principle and elevated it to a divine level? What if your ultimate mastermind partner wasn't just another person, but God Himself? Imagine what would happen if every decision you made, every strategy you created, was guided by infinite wisdom instead of limited human understanding. That's the essence of aligning your success journey with the right partnerships, those on earth and the one in heaven. When you choose to walk this path, the first thing you realize is that isolation is a dream killer. So many people fail not because they lacked talent or ambition, but because they tried to do everything on their own. They carried burdens they were never meant to carry, fought battles they were never meant to fight, and burned out before they reached the finish line. But success accelerates when you surround yourself with people who share your values, your vision, and your commitment to growth. It's not just about being around positive people, it's about being around purposeful people. People who will challenge you when you're slacking, encourage you when you're discouraged, and celebrate you when you win not out of jealousy, but out of genuine belief in your mission. And here's why this matters. The environment you live in shapes the decisions you make. If you spend time with people who complain, doubt, and settle for mediocrity, their mindset will eventually rub off on you. But if you connect with people who think big, act bold, and stay rooted in faith, their energy will elevate yours. You can't soar with eagles if you're surrounded by turkeys. Your circle is either pulling you toward your destiny or away from it. That's why you must be intentional about creating your mastermind group, people who want more for you than they want from you, people who speak life when others speak fear. But as powerful as these earthly relationships are, they will always be incomplete without your connection to God. Because even the most successful person you know has limitations, but God has none. He sees what you can't see, He knows what you can't know, and when you invite Him into your plans, He gives you strategies you never could have imagined. This is where prayer becomes more than a spiritual ritual. It becomes a business strategy, a leadership tool, a creative force. Every time you seek His wisdom before you make a move, you gain access to solutions that human logic can't provide. That's why some people seem to operate on a level that others can't figure out. It's because their secret weapon isn't just hard work, it's divine partnership. And let me say this, when you partner with God, the right people start showing up in your life. The connections you need, the resources you've been praying for, the doors you've been knocking on, they start opening at the perfect time. Not because of luck, but because you're aligned with purpose. Opportunities will come that you didn't chase. Favor will find you in places you didn't expect. This is the kind of acceleration that happens when you build your mastermind with God at the center. Of course, this doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you do your part with excellence while trusting Him to do what you can't. You plan, you prepare, you persist, but you don't panic, because you know you're not in this alone. And when you combine your effort with God's wisdom and the support of the right people, your capacity multiplies. Suddenly, what felt impossible becomes inevitable. So, if you want to prosper in all you do, stop trying to figure it all out by yourself. Build your team wisely and make sure the one leading it is God Himself, because when your mastermind includes Him, there is no limit to what you can achieve. If you truly want to unlock the fullness of prosperity, there are two qualities you cannot ignore: gratitude and service. They are not just nice ideas or moral principles, they are spiritual multipliers. Gratitude takes what you have and makes it enough, and service takes what you've been given and turns it into something eternal. Together, they form a cycle that keeps blessings flowing into your life in ways you could never engineer on your own. Let's start with gratitude because it changes everything. When you live in a state of constant complaining, focusing on what's missing instead of what's present, you shut the door on abundance. Why? Because a negative attitude blinds you to opportunities that are right in front of you. You could have a breakthrough within reach and never notice it because your mind is fixated on what you lack. But gratitude shifts your perspective. It opens your eyes to the blessings you already have and positions your heart to receive more. The more thankful you are, the more resourceful you become. You start to see possibilities where others see problems. You approach challenges differently because instead of thinking, "Why me?" you start saying, "Thank God I'm strong enough to handle this." And here's what's amazing: gratitude attracts. It draws people to you. Nobody wants to be around someone who's constantly bitter and negative, but everyone is drawn to someone who radiates appreciation and positivity. When you make gratitude a habit, not just for the big wins, but for the small things, you create an energy that opens doors. People want to work with you, help you, and be around you because gratitude makes you magnetic. Now let's talk about service, because this is where so many people miss it. Prosperity is not just about what you accumulate, it's about what you contribute. If your only goal is to get, you will reach a point where it all feels empty. You'll have success but no significance, wealth but no meaning. Why? Because the human spirit was never designed to hoard blessings. It was designed to distribute them. Real joy comes when you take what you've been given, your time, your talents, your resources, and use them to make someone else's life better. That's when prosperity becomes purpose. Napoleon Hill understood this principle. He wrote about going the extra mile, about creating value before expecting reward. That's another way of saying, serve first. Don't just do the minimum required, give more than you're paid for, give more than is expected. When you operate with that mindset, the law of cause and effect goes to work in your favor. Doors open that others can't explain. Opportunities find you without you chasing them. Why? Because when you serve, you plant seeds of favor that always come back multiplied. But here's something even deeper. Service is the ultimate expression of faith. When you give your time, energy, or resources to help others, even when it's inconvenient, you're declaring that you trust God to replenish what you've given. And He always does. Sometimes in ways you expect, sometimes in ways that surprise you. Either way, you can't outgive Him. Every act of service sets a chain reaction of blessings into motion. Blessings that will meet you at the exact moment you need them most. Gratitude and service also protect your heart from pride. They remind you that prosperity is not just about you. It's about the bigger picture. It's about becoming a channel through which goodness flows. When you live this way, you stop worrying about running out because you know your source is unlimited. You start waking up excited, not just for what you can gain, but for how much of a difference you can make. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to wait until you have millions in the bank to serve others. You can start with a kind word, a helping hand, or an encouraging message. You can choose gratitude right now, before the breakthrough, before the promotion, before the miracle. Because gratitude and service are not results of prosperity, they are the keys that unlock it. When your life is rooted in thankfulness and expressed through service, you will never have to chase blessings. They will chase you,